Hi, my name is Richie Darling, and today we are drawing my friend. I'm going to see how fast we can do it, and this is the pilot for a series of these. And the first thing we're going to do is I took a photo of my buddy and I took it to the print shop. Well, I sent him an email and I formatted it in the format where the size of my canvas and the size of the print are the exact same. So that gives me a reference photograph to draw from so that I can copy it, and it makes the drawing a whole lot easier because I don't have to try to remember all the details. I can just look at this photograph, and plus the style that we're going here for is not photorealistic. This is going to be a slightly more natural realism style that's somewhere between realism and photorealism. I would just call it realism. And the only tools we're going to be using today are pencils and erasers. This sheet of paper right here that I'm attempting very laboriously to add is a piece of graphite paper. This kind is called Sally's by Saral wax-free artist graphite paper. Ready for this camera? And I got it from a local art supply store, and it's a relatively inexpensive expense. And what this does is this allows me to place anything that I want on top of this graphite. I'm going to get this with a scalpel. Persistence pays off as an artist. Should really have some Scotch tape.
Need Scotch tape?
Maybe.
Duct tape.
Nah. This stuff will actually work just fine. All I got to do is tear off a few pieces and have them ready to go once I can get a hold of it. So I'm taping on one side of this graphite paper, just like that, so that'll keep it in place with a couple of pieces here. And I'm going to be careful not to touch it too much, because if I put a mark on it right here with my fingernail, you can see on the other side it actually makes a mark. So this helps me get a 1-for-1 transfer. I've had this print made at 12 by 18, and my canvas size here for this drawing paper is 12 by 18. We're going to try to do this as fast as we can with the style of the level of realism that I like to keep. So we'll be putting a lot of lead down pretty fast. I'm going to talk you guys through it as I go. It's kind of my process that I've developed over the years of learning to be an artist and do drawings. I think I'll place the tape on the same side over here. Just hold everything in place. This will keep us from any lateral movement, any up and down movement, and we'll just take it off very carefully. We're only putting a couple of pieces of tape on it. It's not going to be on here for very long. All we really need this for is the outline of the value changes in the photograph itself. So I'm going to use the harder of the two pencils that I have here, so which brings me to pencils. These are artist pencils. These are Faber-Castell. I have a 2B and a 6B. Those are the two pencils that I like to use for this, and this gives contrast. The 6B is the really dark, softer lead, and when you put the 6B down, you'll notice that it's about as dark as a pencil can be. You know, they make even softer leads, 7B, 8B, 9B, but at that point, it gets to be kind of like a black crayon. And you know, if you like that, if you need that extra depth, that's pretty cool. But I like to just use pencils that I already have kind of laying around, and 2B and 6B do the job just fine. And so the 2B is the harder of the two. Now that's the one I'm going to use to do these outlines on. I'm going to start rocking and rolling and laying some lead down pretty quick. Basically what I'm doing is, this is taped in place and my paper is underneath it, and I'm just going to do his shoulder here, and I'm just kind of going through and showing that value change right there. Now you can see this shape right here, and it's kind of hard to see these kind of shapes unless you're used to looking at them in an artistic context. But what I did was I read a book from the library by an artist named Sandra Angelo, and this book was called So You Thought You Couldn't Draw, and it was basically a really cheesy instructional kind of kindergarten written, you know, in like to a second grader on how to do these little shading exercises that seem very innocuous and very much like obvious things, but if you haven't just sat and done them, then you wouldn't know. And through this course, as an adult who was ready to learn, this helped me go through and kind of learn how to view photographs as an artist and to be able to reproduce them in an accurate way. And really just opening up that part of your brain is a really good thing to do. And you'd be surprised where it comes in handy. All of a sudden you start seeing lines everywhere and shapes, and that really does something to help you grow as a person who likes to learn about things and do things and craft and artwork and all these things. Now I want this to be pretty detailed, so I'm going through and I'm doing all of every single little piece of it. So it's going to take a while. And that's one thing that I had to learn about when I first started drawing, that maybe you don't realize as an artist until you really start getting into the weeds of it, is that drawing a really awesome drawing takes a lot of time to sit and do all the shading exactly right and getting the textures and filling the entire canvas. And I think in this case, using the style that I use, where we're using photographic references, and I'm even just drawing right up on top of this photograph because this is the fastest way that I've found to get my hand drawn the shape of the photograph that I want to actually resemble the person and look as close to the photograph as I can reasonably do in a reasonable amount of time, living my lifestyle the way that I do. Now this is a drawing of my friend Buzz, who's my bandmate. Buzz is a nickname. His real name is Jacob Buzzkirk. He's a fantastic drummer. And he's been my friend for at least 3 years now. And we have played over 100 shows together. And we've recorded 3 albums, and we're about to put out 2 more. And so we're friends. It's also my business partner, because my band Dead Man's Dog is a business, because it has to be. And I'm just doing this drawing for fun. And this is a process that I've actually developed over a number of years. That's not, some kind of guild secret or anything like that. It's just the process that I use to get the results that I want in the amount of time that I want to be able to do it. And now that I have video evidence of my drawings, I can kind of see how long it takes to do them when I'm focused. And running this narration, maybe it'll give you a couple of ideas to do, and pick up a pencil or a couple of different kinds of art pencils and get to work. Do your own cool drawings. Having this photographic reference I can trace right here makes these little geometries in this really cool necklace just a whole lot easier to deal with on the transfer. And I know some artists are of the opinion that doing a photographic reproduction method in this way may be some kind of a cheat, or maybe it means that you aren't as skilled as someone who doesn't. Maybe that's true, but this is all your favorite artists, almost all of them, all use methods like very similar to this. Even Michelangelo and Da Vinci, when they did their famous paintings and drawings in the Sistine Chapel and the Mona Lisa and all these things, they used a very similar method to this, not with photography, obviously, but they had their own technological methods. They would take a drawing that they did somewhere else where they would work on it and work out the line details, and they would have all the drawing artifacts from the pencil marks that they made all over the page, and they would take this page, lay it on top of the canvas that they would want to work with, and they would hit the outline with a pin, like a little pin, like a metal needle, and they would punch through all these outlines and stipple. They would use a stippling method to get their shapes correct. So this is just a faster way of that. And as an artist, I'm not so self-conscious to think that that this is some type of lesser method or something like that, because I've made these drawings all many times. I've made these drawings with and without this method. This is just the method that I prefer because it's faster and it gives me the immediate results that I want. Hair is obviously really tricky. That's going to be one of the hardest things. But I have my own method for hair, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you everyone. I've been drawing this style of drawing for a while now. Maybe I learned to draw sometime around 2009. And I was an adult who could not draw and who drew very much like a child. And my drawings were not good. But I was hanging out with artists because I'm a musician, and so artists and musicians are natural allies, and we end up hanging out together. And I've been hanging out with artists, and a few of my artist friends have basically convinced me that a lot of people, a lot of modern artists, art is a process. And if you are a processorial craftsman, and you develop processes that you enjoy doing, there's no reason why you couldn't consider yourself an artist and do all of the different kinds of artwork that you want to do for your own reasons. And that it's a skill and that you can learn it and you can get a whole lot better at it even if you've been bad at it your whole life. And as an adult who's never been able to draw, in my 30s I really wanted to do that, and so I got that book from the library, Sandra Angelo's So You Thought You Couldn't Draw, and then I bought one more really good art book after that. And I've got many art books now, but those first two really helped. One was just a book on photographic techniques that's very very popular, but I don't use a lot of the methods in that book. I use all the methods in Sandra Angelo's book, just about. And she doesn't use this this graphite transfer paper method. I found that out after I read her book. But she has you using a grid method, and we can do that at some point, and I might show you guys how to do a grid method. That's a fun one. And if you don't have graphite transfer paper, don't let not having art supplies stop you from doing art. There's you can make art from just about anything. And at times when I don't have graphite transfer paper or I run out and I want to do a drawing, I don't stop what I'm doing until I get some, because sometimes that ruins your momentum. So you need to be able to be versed in many different ways to transfer an image to a different surface. Pay special detail to the eyes. That's one of the most important parts. I'm just going over this value of the shadow change right here, the darkest parts of it. And I got a nice sharp 2B, and I'm pushing down pretty good because I want that outline to transfer over. But all I'm really doing is outlining the value changes. I know where his eye is. There's a good deal of gradation everywhere, and sometimes these lines aren't always apparent, so you have to kind of know a little bit, or you have to have done a few to really get an idea which of these are the most important lines. Right under the nostril, that's like a really dark spot. We make sure we highlight that, and we want to get the exact shape of his nose, so I'm just going to kind of contour the bottom of the nose there and make sure the shape here is right, because if the nose looks off, we don't want that. We want the nose to look like Buzz, like my friend Jacob Buzzkirk. I'm just kind of being jagged with the edge here where his hairline is, noting all these value changes. And if you go through and you sort of do Sandra Angelo's book, lost my train of thought there. I know if you do her book, then there's like a certain artist eye that just really opened up for me with that book. After about 3/4 or 2/3 of the way through the book, all of a sudden I just realized that I can draw now. And I started using her methods and I could just draw. And I remember the first few cool drawings that I drew, I was showing them to everybody, and I was like, hey, look what I drew, look at this. And it was just a really cool new thing for me. It's like all of a sudden now I can see these shadows better than I could before. Now I can see this shape, and part of it is she has you drawing these little squares, and all you're doing is the shading exercise. All you're doing is shading, and she's teaching you how to view negative space. And viewing the negative space, that's just a slightly different part of your visual cortex, I'm sure, that maybe you didn't do on your own before. But now that your artist eye is open, you start noticing it. And so now these shapes that I never even knew really were there, like, you know, when you're drawing and you're kind of doing the pencil stroke the way that you think the shape is, and especially with faces. You know, faces, you learn to draw a face in kindergarten, you learn to draw a face in the first grade or whatever. You know, you have a circle and a couple of round eyes, and, you know, the nose, who knows what it might look like. Maybe just a couple of strokes. And the ears, you kind of draw out there, and the chin. But if you compare it to the way a person's face really is, it's way different. It's way different. But here I have the exact shape of his eyes. Now I took this photograph with my camera, and I had the print shot printed out, and in a photo editing program very similar to Photoshop, I made this image black and white, and I sized it and I cropped it to the composition that I wanted, where his face takes up a great deal of the portion of the page, right? Big, nice face in the middle. That also makes it easier to draw because there's not if it's very contrasty like this, if you turn up the contrast on the black and white, then you get a good portion of the face gets blown, the highlights get blown out. Now that could be considered bad, you know, if you're super duper into photography or if you're a purist or something, but in this case it gives us a little less detail that we have to worry about in a very detailed photograph. But it still looks remarkably like him, and you know, I kind of like the high contrast look. I think it's kind of tough, you know, kind of the black and white high contrast. It's very Anne Leibovitz. It's very Ansel Adams. You know, it's I try to take photographs with a really good high quality lens and a good camera, because then when you blow them up, they have better quality. It's not just about megapixels. It's also about the quality of the glass and the compositional eye. And all good drawings are based on great photos. Not all of them, but I'll say this: great photo, you're more likely to have a great drawing. So all my drawings start with top quality photos. And I like to draw my own photos that I took myself. It makes them more unique. And I don't have to worry about any kind of copyright issues or anything like that, because I took the photo. Big dark spots in the corners of the mouth there with the heavy shadows. I'm going to draw just one line for the lip line. That's about the only line that you'll draw there. I'm going to get the top of the lips too, just to denote that value change. It seems a little weird drawing on a photograph, but you know, I got this, this is just printed on really thin paper. And it doesn't even have to be really super high quality. It just needs to show me the good value changes, because I know I'm going to draw on it, and I bought it for that reason, and I ordered it. And the size and the fact that it's black and white is also a little bit cheaper. So no, if I'm doing a black and white drawing, might as well get a black and white photo to go from. That way you can really highlight all these details that jump out. And every once in a while I'll take a look at it and make sure it looks like what I want it to. I gotta find his pupil in here, and even though it's blown out a little bit, the darks are a little too oversaturated. We can still, if I get in there and look up close with my eye, I can still, I think that's my phone.
You want me to turn it off, or is it?
I'll just put it on vibrate. No big deal. Yeah, it keeps interrupting my mojo. Everybody with important stuff.
Yeah, man.
I better check it and make sure my family's is okay.
Yeah.
Real quick. Yeah, okay. We're all good there. Right on. So as you can see here, I need a little more detail here and there. I want to get his eyebrows a little more, and the rest of it's starting to look pretty good. Got all these hard shapes in his shirt, and I have two. I'm gonna do the strokes of the hair a little bit more, just so I can see which direction they're going in, so that I know which way I'm doing when I'm shading it. We'll just follow the stroke of the hair. And hair is so much more than just pencil lines like this. But I'm going to show you guys the method that I have to do this hair, which is not exactly like the book method that Sandra Angelo does, but I'm using this reference picture to really just give me a lot of that detail that I want to be able to show. And since his shirt is so interesting and psychedelic, I want to get all this really good tie-dye detail in there. It's a toe. It's a foot with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it has 6 toes on it. You can't tell in this picture, but. And I think that comes from Feed a Hippie. I'm not sure. I'm going to do a few of these chin hair strokes here so I can denote the beard. I want to make sure he has a nice looking beard, because he has a nice looking beard. Buzz has his own drum cam show that I help him with on some video editing called Conjuring Spirits with Buzz. And we just use footage that we have from our concert footage, and we just turn the drum cam on and we let you see what life is like from that perspective. And it's kind of fun because, at a show, if you're a drummer or if you're a person who likes drums, you get that unique perspective that you might not get with a stationary camera in any other context. If I go to a live show, I can keep an eye on the drummer if I want to just watch them and see what they're doing, see how they're changing the universe. But if I watch a concert film, I don't have that luxury. Alright, now I said we were going to be laying some lead down, so we're getting pretty close to done with the outline. The outline, it does not take all that long. And this is just going to be big field of black right in there. His expression looks pretty good. Let me get this other part of his nose just so I know that his nostril comes up around this way. And that's the thing, see, sometimes you draw what you think is there and not what's actually there. And yeah, you can even do that with this tracing method like this. It's easy to just draw the shape of what you think the mouth is on top of the actual mouth, even when you're looking right at it. That's easy to do. My brain has been trained by Sandra Angelo's book to not do that, but it's still easy to do. Okay. Now I'm just going to remove very carefully so I don't rip the paper. I recommend Scotch tape for this and not packing tape. But you use what you gotta use. The only thing I implore you to never use for this is duct tape, because that leaves a really nasty residue. And like another podcast that I watch, Adam Savage has tested. He convinced me that there's always a better tape than duct tape for everything you can think of. There's a better tape, so even duct work, because duct tape is actually not very good for ductwork at all, and it's prone to get loose, and it leaves a really nasty residue on everything that it touches. But sometimes that's the only tape you got left laying around. You got to do what you got to do. Just don't do it on this drawing, or else you'll leave nasty residue on it. Now this graphite paper can be reused like 100 times. And there's a little ghost imprint of the outline that we just did. I'm just going to fold this very loosely, and we will reuse it because it's the exact size that we'll need if we use up the rest of these pages in this canvas. Again, we're using 12 by 18.
Man, that's so cool.
What?
Just the concept there.
Oh, yeah.
The tracing, I love
Yeah.
that.
And so now I have printed two different drawings, right, or two different photos. Here's the second one. This one's printed on a much thicker piece of paper. This one I'm not going to draw on. I want it to be a slightly higher quality image, even though it's about the same. It's just this is now also a frameable photograph, right? I mean, and this is very inexpensive at the print shop that I go to. They'll do something like this for an absurdly cheap amount, like 20 cents or something like that, 29 cents I think, maybe even less, because it's black and white as well. Now, here's the part where we really start throwing down some lead. Now, I'm still using my 2B at this point, but I'm switching basically right now. And now we're going to 6B. Now, these 6B pencils, they start out sharp, and I have a bunch of sharpened ones here ready to go because that's a big thing. If you got to stop every 5 seconds, well, or every periodically to sharpen your pencil, then a lot of times you can lose momentum, lose steam. So having a bunch of sharp ones ready to go, and when I say a bunch, like 3 or 4 of each, or more if you have them. And these are not inexpensive pencils. They're a couple of bucks a piece. I think at the most you'll ever pay. Well, I'm sure there's prices that are astronomical, but the most you really see them for is, that I'm willing to pay for is $3 to $5. I won't pay more than like $5 for a pencil unless it's some kind of specialty thing, and I think it's going to be really cool. But you should try. I'm going to clean up a little bit of these just like marks around here for no reason really. I'm about to just throw a lot of lead down right there. Now that I have some 6Bs, you'll notice that you can differentiate the background quite easily. This has like a sort of a nice bokeh with some sort of shapes back here, and I could do those if we really wanted to. But my focus is really on the face, okay, and the torso area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to black out the whole background, just because this lets me get in the scribble mode where I'm really throwing a lot of lead down, and that helps me maintain momentum and kind of keep pace with my intentions here. And we'll sort of bring the background in and we'll sort of color in and we'll sort of work our way to the face, and that'll be one of the last things that we really work on that way. If we did it the other way and I started on the face first and we worked our way out, that's fine, we can do that, but then we got to be really careful about where we put our hand, because we don't want to smear things all around. I mean, it's going to be an issue anyway. There's nothing that you can't fix if you're a decent artist. So I could smear my hand all across here, and I could fix that, or we could do a big dark horrible mark that we don't want in there, and we can fix that too. It's not a huge deal. However, the less of that you do, the less you got to deal with, and the better off you are. Especially these big blown out whites here. We want to really keep those kind of cleaned up as we go. I'll just be hitting these with the eraser once in a while. This is a kneaded gum eraser, is what this is called, and this is my primary eraser that I'm going to use this entire time. The only other one that I'm going to use is over there in my pouch, and I'll grab it sort of towards the end, and that is the electric eraser, and that thing is really good piece of high-tech device that really helps out. Okay, let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is, I know that I want everything above this shoulder, all this section, I want that completely black. I want to burnish that all the way down with the darkest lead I can. This is my method. I did not invent it, but this is the method that I'm using. I just like to take the background out, because why not? It really helps focus a lot on the face, and it gives me a good deal of satisfaction to just get this stuff down. And sometimes I use a big pencil that's pretty much like all lead. And they make that in a 6B as well. Actually, I'll probably switch to that here just as soon as I wear this one down, because I don't want to use up all my sharpest ones on the background, because we can lay big fat lines back here, no big deal. We like the fat lines. Go all the way to burnish. The darkest lead we can. And this will instantly let our eyes see the contrast the way that we need to see it for this to be a photographic representation. And the more contrast you put in this photo, the more realistic it's going to look. Well, don't outpace the actual contrast of the actual photo. But I don't know, maybe. Alright, I'm going to grab that piece. That's garbage.
Oh, he's not that bad looking.
Oh, there's my tape. And my other eraser, the one I need. And here is a gigantic 6B, which is what we're about to use. Now, just about this time, see how we got interrupted right there? That's a real easy thing to do. Just get yourself right interrupted and wasting 30 seconds there. Doing nothing. I could have been scribbling my heart out, because why wouldn't you, right? I'm just going to go right up to the lines. It doesn't matter if this is sloppy or not. This is just the background, right? No big deal there. Look at all that depth of contrast we're getting from just a big, dull point. I feel like I should look up and talk to the audience every once in a while. Act like I'm not just talking to the drawing here. Now you can do tiny, tiny circles, and that will give you sort of not a lot of brush strokes. But I don't mind big old pencil brush strokes in a background, and it actually makes it look more hand drawn, I think. And so since this is a sort of a processorial, and we're not going for hyper realism or even really photorealism, we're just going for a type of natural realism that sort of approaches photorealism. And as you see this on film, and I don't know this to be true or not yet, but I'm assuming that it almost always looks better in person, right? So if you actually lay your eyes on this versus what you're going to see on this screen, this is going to be a more realistic drawing than even we'll be able to capture on this film, I think. I'm going the same direction here, sort of, you know, I'm kind of just filling in, and I'm leaving a little bit of gap in the hair because sometimes that helps us differentiate the hair from the background since I'm just doing these broad strokes like this. So if I leave a little bit of a highlight area between the hair and the background, right there, like you can see, and it's sloppy, it's okay. We're gonna fix everything that seems a little sloppy, and it'll just blend in organically to the surrounding graphite here. And a lot of times I'll turn the canvas even, you know, and we'll do some of that. But this isn't a huge background area, and I've got such a big broad piece of lead here. Also, that helps with a little bit of muscle fatigue too, because what we're doing here is not a trivial thing. You know, we're doing a repetitive motion back and forth that will wear you out. And I've got my buddy Tommy Wishhouse here, who's helping me with production and camera stuff and streaming, and he's helping keep me company, and that way I'm not just talking to myself in a room. It's kind of
Now it's two guys talking to each other.
yeah. Right? Slightly better. Two brains are very powerful together.
That's right.
Tommy Wishhouse is an accomplished performer, entertainer,
Okay.
and entrepreneur in the St. Louis area.
I'm also really fun at parties.
Mardi Gras was great.
Mardi Gras was fun. We had so many people come through.
And I'm going to go for stretches in here where I'm not really talking at all, and that's just me zoning in and kind of going through the process.
Do you mind if I play some guitar?
Oh, please. Tommy's going to play guitar for you guys. And I'm going all the way to burnish, and we're just filling in all these light gray areas. I'm not too precise there, and I'm going to switch back to my 6B straight lead, or sorry, 6B drawing pencil that has the wood surrounding. And now I'm going to go in a little closer on the hair. And I'm just going to be filling in some of the lighter spots in the background that I can see. We'll just sort of shore up this shoulder pad here. And you know, it's kind of weird drawing the background so black when it's actually not black. It does give a small level of surrealism to it. I'm okay with that because I'm an artist, and that's an artistic decision. It helps me to highlight the contrast of the face, and I think it's a pretty good bet. Now I sort of do this shading where I'm following the contour of the hairline even in the background, right? That helps it to look a little more hand-drawn. I don't mind that. I just want to lay big strokes. I want to do broad sections here. I want to get a lot of lead on the paper. We're going all the way to the background. I don't want to do too much cross-hatching. I want to stay mostly in one direction. but just following the outline of the head around the sides is a pretty cool thing. Now, at some point, I want to be able to get even faster at this. Today's I'm not going for speed so much. I'm going a little bit for speed. I don't know if it's slowing me down to narrate while I go, or if I'm faster if I don't narrate. I don't know. I'm trying to sort of hit that in-between spot of the runner's high and the, it is an athletic thing I'm doing here. Now I'm looking for the blackest parts of the shirt and the blackest parts of the, all the blackest, darkest parts, right? All of this hair can go almost all the way to burnish. And we'll come back on some of it, but we can go almost all the way black on this, and we'll differentiate that from the background with that little highlight strip, and we can even highlight that even more with the eraser. We'll come back through. And we're just having fun. We're just laying some lead down. We're darkening this area using a really dark pencil, following the hairline, because this part of the hair is really dark. And I've had artists tell me before that there's something about the laying such dark marks on there on the page that some people have a really hard time with, because what if it's wrong? It's harder to erase this really dark line. But the way I look at it is, paper's cheap. I've got all the time I need. I can draw these, if I mess this one up, I can draw another one. But there's nothing on here that you can't fix. And everything looks real sloppy right now. This is another thing that I really had to get over a bunch, was being halfway through a drawing and just being like, it's just no good, it doesn't look good, it's not going to end up good, and convincing yourself to just keep working on it. Because if you sit here and scribble enough with a pencil and an eraser, and you look at things with an artist's mind, you can fix any of the mistakes that you make on here, and you can change these shapes, and you can move this shading here, and so there's no reason to not just lay down a lot of lead. And when I squint my eyes, that helps me to see the contrast in this photo and the contrast on my page, and where I need to change the contrast. But right now I'm still working on these blacks, so I don't need to work on those shapes or anything. I just need to put some more lead down. I'm just doing all the low-hanging fruit so I can get this thing as close to awesome looking as fast as I can. Not that I'm impatient, but I got a lot of things I could do with my time, and I want to be able to make this thing look really good, really fast as I can. And of course that transfer method with the graphite transfer sheet. That can be used in a whole range of other applications, Alright, so that thing has gone all the way down, but instead of harshing my buzz by walking over there to the pencil sharpener, I'm just going to grab another 6B, and we'll just burn through them, because this is what I bought these pencils for, and this is what we're using them for, and that one's toast. So there's 2 down, but I got at least 3 here. really drawing so much as sculpting. I'm really 2D sculpting these areas of light and shadow. That we're refining these shapes as we go. You don't have to get them exactly right the first time, but they're pretty close because of the transfer that we did. And you can really see all of the parts start to jump out as you go. I just follow where my interest takes me here. I can see this chin line needs to be darkened up, and there's a big circular swooping pattern that happens right here. I'm just going to define this one with this nice, sharp, dark 6B that I got going. 6B is, of course, the darker pencil of the two, like we talked about at the beginning. And we're just laying down graphite, man. We want all this really nicely darkened. I mean, there's going to be so many subtle layers here, this base contrast, this base shading, this base black and white sort of area is just the beginning. Now the background here is light and the background here is dark, so this dark hair will not stand out in this dark background, so we need to leave a little bit of light there on that hair, and we're just going to change the color and make it sort of a highlight, and then I'll go in behind it here and we'll darken this up, and I'll leave a little highlight on that there, and we'll get back into those as we go. That's, like I said before, we're really sculpting this two-dimensionally. Not all my metaphors are going to be perfect.
Keep them coming.
Right? I'm just going to spout these nuggets of wisdom as I am just mostly repeating from the artists that I've heard tell me about them and the ones who've written books that I've read.
I like what you said about like picking something, just whatever stands out to you and going. It's hard to know what to do next.
Yeah, and you can really get caught up in minutia of making one thing just look right, and you're like, oh, it's not right, it's not right, it's something wrong with it. You can't put your finger on it. Maybe the shape is just ever so subtly different that you can't. You're having a hard time with it. But if the books that I've read, they've given me some techniques that I use to kind of work myself through those things, and that's kind of just what I'm spouting off here. Is my personal methods of doing that. And this narration that I'm saying out loud, I'm pretty much having it in my brain every time I'm doing it. It's not quite as structured and conversational as what I'm trying to make it now, but I'm definitely thinking all of these things while I'm thinking about the process that I'm doing. And
do you enjoy when I ask you questions, or is that distract?
No, I like it, man.
Okay, cool.
I'm just going to repeat myself a bunch as I go. I do that when I teach guitar, and when I teach harmonica and some other things that I give instructional advice to. I just keep on talking like a teacher. Now this part of the hair is not quite as dark as this part over here. This part over here, we're really gonna go deep in and get this part just black, really black, because of the way the photograph is, like we talked about. All right, now this black part of the collar going right here, I'm just gonna go that all the way black too. Why not? It's crazy psychedelic, feet a hippie. Maybe a Wookiee foot. That might be Wookiee foot with the thing. I don't know. I'm not versed on all the hippie subcultures. I know a little bit about a couple of them. But if you get hung up on too much of the minutia in one little spot, just move on to the next one and come back to it later. Because that will give you a new perspective of it when you come back to it. The longer you do the art, the more you get in the art eyeball, in the art mode, and the more brain power you're not devoting to narration.
I find doing multiple things at once helps me. It's hard for me to do one thing continuously. Sometimes I like doing 3 things in conjunction. Do you ever find yourself going like between 2 spots and like fixing one and then going back to another and then?
Definitely. That's about mostly what you're doing. Going from one thing to another thing, looking back and forth. It's very, very much part of it. Yep. Sometimes I like to multitask, yeah. And multitasking's fun, especially if you pull it off. Usually when I'm doing something like this, I'm doing a monotasking sort of situation. But right now I'm kind of multitasking it. I mean, I'm sitting here just talking about what I'm doing, and I'm trying to do it in a format that's understandable. So in a way, multitasking. So I've got a whole box of prints over there. And I got members of my family and friends that I'm close with. And some friends that have drifted apart that I still admire. Just people that I think about. I like to draw the people that I think about. You'll notice this hair right now looks kind of rubbish, you know, but we're gonna fix it all. We're gonna make it not be rubbish. Right now, we're just concerned with big tone changes. Now, I'm using this method, and I've seen the recent methods of the hyper-realistic and photorealistic artists of the contemporary era now, and I see the methods that they use, and I'm gonna, eventually I'm gonna get around to incorporating some of those new methods so that my drawings can be even more. I want to do that in the future. Right now I've had a lot of success with this method that I'm using right here, and so today we're going to focus on the method that I already know, and we'll do new methods maybe in the future. I think 12 by 18 is such a great size because it's bigger than you expect for something like this. I'm just going to do a pupil. I don't know. I'll just do a little pupil. Why not? I remember the corner of this mouth is nice and dark, really dark. And I got this 6B out, and it's still got a little bit of sharpness on there. But remember, anything that I don't like in the future, we'll sculpt it back and I'll fix it. No big deal. Let's get this big foot going and the Wookiee foot down here. All of these pads have a really dark black interior, and that's why I circled them for the value change. Now, if you think about drawing like this, it's different than you might think, I remember before I started drawing using this method, when I was just using my sort of adolescent and kindergarten mindset about drawing, my drawings did not look good at all. And the way I thought that you were supposed to draw to get those drawings, now that I'm drawing drawings like the ones I wanted to be able to draw then, the method is so much different than I thought it would be. And that's why I think it's valuable to give the public insight into these methods, you know. Giving away a little bit of the sausage here, you know. Feels like artists are sort of in a secret guild, you know, and they have their own methods, and they don't want to see what something looks really easy to do. A lot of times it is really easy to do, and that means you can do it too. Artists want to feel special, and they still are special, you know, because they're doing this day in and day out. This is still a special thing. A little bit of a hand cramp. We'll just work our way through it. I'm just going to shake it off a little bit and dig down to some of that military discipline we learned back in 1997. And I get distracted with my stories, and I'm not laying down the lead like I could be. This graphite can be, oh, look at this gigantic piece here, yeah. We'll just make big circular marks. The bigger the marks, the better. Matter of fact, let's just switch over and use our Big Daddy. We'll lay some lead down here. And this one is such a blunt tip, I'm not really trying to get the accurate outline. I'm just going up to it, because it's really, you know, this is just about surface area. We'll go in with the sharpened tip and get it closer. And that doesn't mean I'm not being accurate. That just means that I'm working with the brush size or the pencil size tip that is a lower resolution. I want to go all the way to the edge of that paper. You know, we want it to look really good. There's another thing. Going all the way to the edge of the paper. That really helps sell your composition and make it look more photographic, because this photograph, well, even the photograph doesn't go all the way to the edge, but ours will. If you cropped this photograph around the edge so it did not have that white border, it would look even better. And, you know, if you frame it, you might not even really see the white edge. Look at all that graphite going down. There it is. And I'm doing variations on the pressure also. On the darkest spots, obviously, I'm pushing down a little harder because we're getting more graphite down. We're taking it all the way to burnish. And all these lines are going to go all the way to the off of the page here. And when I want it to have a lighter look, I'll use less pressure. Now we're about to switch to our 2B at some point. I don't know, there's still a lot of good, nice, dark spots I need, so we're actually going to keep that 6B. We'll just change over to the bigger one here. And there we go. We want this one really dark all the way down there. And we'll sort of put another line. It's not really a line there, but we'll sort of put one here to denote this area that we're going to just black off. Now, all the way black. Here we go. Now we're getting some work done, right? Look at that. Look at that. If you talk about square centimeters that need to be touched and need to be laid down, then it's just an arms race, right? All it is surface area. Now, on the other side of this little row of X's and O's here that's in his really cool vest, we're going to try to get this fabric. That's not, I wouldn't call that my strongest suit. We'll be doing fabric, but we will show different textures. We will show different textures, just like this vest has different textures. Alright, now I'm going to outline these with my 2B pencil, because it's a little sharper. And I already got those outlines going. Oop. Broke that one right away. 2B, if it's an art pencil, it can still get pretty dark. These ones that I'm using right here are fantabulous. Sort of filling out the outlines, and then I'm going lighter on the inside. And this is just detail in a vest. You know, this isn't the focal point of the drawing, but it's a cool little detail. You know, this vest is, somebody designed this vest, and they put a lot of thought into the design of the vest. And if I'm going to draw this vest, then the more detail I can put in it, the better the drawing will be. Laying down some lead. And these aren't perfect shapes because it's fabric. And it's at an obscure angle. Cramping's coming on. Making progress. Here we go. Now all these alternate stripings on this, that's tricky, right? That seems really tricky. So here's what we'll do. We'll just look at the original. We'll hold it right on top of the one we got. Right? Now what represents what here? So there's a dark band right next to this X's and O's here. The X's and O's here are darker, so let's go ahead and darken those in. Just darken them in like this. That way we can sort of remember where we are and get a visual relationship between the negative space and the positive space on this shading. Turn our artist's eye on and make it easier on ourselves. Photographic reference makes it easier. Now notice here there's nothing here, but down here we assume this pattern goes on, so I'm going to go ahead and just sort of draw an O where I think that would probably be right there. It's not there, just using my imagination. And I'll delete the center of that, which brings us to this little guy. This is an electric eraser, and all it does is rotate, and it's a beautiful thing for this type of artwork, and we will be using it as we go. But mostly I save that for the end because that's when I'm really bringing out the highlights to make this whole thing pop. Now we've got this really dark stripe right here. Okay, we want to deal with that. That's going to be right next to our X's and O's row here, and it's going to stop at the row where I highlighted the value change, which is right here. So we know that right next to that is going to be a little strip of white, which is that, and then right here we're going with a 2B. We're going to darken that in with a 2B. 2B still gets pretty dark, but this isn't quite the full blown out dark lights that we put in before. Now I really need to lay some lead down. I feel like we're behind on time a little bit. So I'm going to throw this graphite down. Why not? I know if I just keep going, in the end it will look great. Now there's a little thin line right here. Okay. That's this line here. Now we want another slightly thicker line next to that, and these don't have to be perfect, you know. Nobody's got a really good recollection of how this vest, the stripes on it are, so if they're just a little bit off, that's no big deal. But this will help sell it, you know. And we could really slack on the clothes. We don't have to draw this much detail at all. We could just really black all the clothes out, really, if we wanted to, and focus on the face, you know. But the clothes area, even if we put some time in on it, we really just want the face to look right. Clothes is just a nice thing. I'm just doing traditional cross hatching here to kind of get that pattern. The pattern doesn't exactly look like that. There's probably a much more, if you look really closely at the pattern, it does do cross hatching. Okay, it goes this way and it goes this way, but it shows up with a really dark dot at the center of each intersection. Now, just because this is sort of what you might call not the focal point of the drawing itself. We just want the fabric to look textured and realistic. It doesn't have to look photographically realistic. The contrast is doing a lot of that work for us. Now I'm just going to go darker with this since we've got the... Now I'm losing a lot of the cross hatching, so I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to think about that, what I want to do there for a minute. I think I'll go with the 6B, and I'll go just a darker, do some stippling just to give it that sort of stippled look. Give me some dark highlights here. Now I'm going to use the 6B to kind of darken the areas that need to be darker here. Now I'm squinting while I'm looking at this because that's helping me get the contrast that I need to really just sacrifice what my thoughts about that method should be to what I'm actually looking at. And that's what I'm kind of doing now. I'm kind of just using my my artist arm here to take over for me and just help me get the highlights right. I don't want to get too married to a technique if it's just not looking right. So we'll just go into sculpting mode. Alright, now we've got some lighter areas over here. Let's address those with a 2B right now. Actually, 6B still. Just do these dark little circles here. Globular sort of structures, that's that, and then this one here, right? And I can put it right next to it so I can see it a little better. And there's the artifact left from my graphite trace, so that's helping us in this instance. Sort of get the shape of that, and we'll extend it all the way to the end. We can just assume it just goes straight to the edge, even though we don't have that information on the actual photograph. Alright, now let's get back to throwing some lead down. There's this really thin white line right there, so we just want to kind of go not quite touching this, but it's not a solid line, so we can be a little sloppy with it, no big deal. And all this corner over here is completely dark all the way up to about there, so we'll just darken all that in and remind myself to just keep drawing, drawing. And if I feel like stopping, that's just an urge that I need to not stop. I need to just keep going.
We have been going over an hour if you want to take a 5-minute break to grab a water or something.
Oh, tempt me with that, and I might not be quite as productive as I want to be right now.
Okay.
Maybe. I'll consider it.
Don't let me get in the way of passion.
So if it's already been an hour, that means I did not finish it in 1 hour. It usually takes me longer than an hour, now that I really think about it. So I'm in the weeds, and I haven't done any facial details yet, and I still got to do a lot of work on the hair.
I feel like if I watched that hour, I would be satisfied with that as an episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that'd be very enjoyable content.
Wow.
You made some very good progress.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yeah.
I think that I am the type of drawer that feels a certain personal pride to being able to just knock it out in one sitting, right?
Okay.
And not that taking a break is not one sitting, but that was just my intention with this thing. There's really no way around it. You got to spend the time. You got to throw the lead down. You got to give it the time that it needs, the time that it deserves, if you want it to be a good drawing. I think that's a realization I'm having right now, because I was thinking to myself, hey, if I could draw a realistic drawing like this in an hour, in a couple hours, maybe one day I could draw really nice photorealistic drawings in 45 minutes or in maybe an hour. If I did draw them in an hour, then maybe one day I could draw, or maybe I could do one a day. I could incorporate it into my lifestyle where I do one of these a day, and I could do a whole month of it, do 30 days of it. That way I just incorporate it into my lifestyle. I really want the outcome. I want the drawings. I want to do the drawings. But that would be something really cool. Do 30 drawings in 30 days like this. But then I was thinking, wouldn't it be a really cool challenge to be able to do 30 drawings in one day? And I think you'd really have to, I'd really have to change my method. Because this method takes longer than that. With the full-on background and the wall of graphite that I'm putting down here. So I think if I was going to do a 30 in 1 day challenge, I may have to do a smaller canvas or something else. So it may or may not be a pipe dream, but I don't know if I'll be a competitive speed drawer anytime soon. But it is something that has crossed my mind. Maybe one day I'll do some type of speed drawing challenge that will be really cool. Still using my 6B on this one. This is representing that stripe right there. I'm going over it with my 2B here to shade in the X's and O's. And a little 6B in the middle there. And these are not perfect shapes, but that's okay. It's clothing. You know, and over here, this underneath shirt is a tie-dye shirt, and you know, you got a lot of liberty with a tie-dye shirt. Just make sure we leave a little bit of white in it, because it's got that white poking out of it. Okay. A little bit less than that. Alright, more cross hatching. Layers and layers and layers of graphite shall go down. Now, this is easily a spot where I could just start getting really sloppy, and you know, I might yet. That's okay. There's nothing we can get too sloppy on and not fix, really. Laying down some lead. You know, we're lighting this today with very natural light, mostly just for my mood. We walked in here and with the lower lights, I said, I really want to keep this kind of mood. And you know, a lot of artists are using table lamps and armature lamps, industrial lighting and stuff. LEDs, all that kind of stuff. We just got the lamps on in the corner and a window with the blinds up. Because I like to be in a certain mood when I draw, and that's relaxed. Okay, now I got a big couple of stripes here and then a big brown stripe here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just goes dark up here and then it comes down into this lighter brown. And I'm just going to get after it with my 2B here. I'm just coloring this stripe down based on the outline that I already made, and then that gives me all the reference points that I'm looking for to get my shapes accurate. Alright, now all of these other ones need to really be darkened in too, so I'm going to get darkening on those. Really, there's no white line really running up here, so because that's all a certain depth, we're just gonna and as soon as my pencil gets not sharp to my liking, I just toss it aside and grab another pencil that's already sharpened. And when I run out of all of them that I need, if I need a 2B and I don't have a sharp 2B, I'll run over there real quick and sharpen all of them with an electric pencil sharpener. That's another very important thing to have. Although I do have the little manual one just in case that one breaks. And if the manual one breaks, I got a little X-Acto knife sitting right here, and I know how to sharpen a pencil with that. Now I'm going to do some of this shading on the neck. I'm just following the shadow line. We know it's going to be darker. All this under here is going to be darker. And I'm starting to kind of try to get my strokes a little more refined because we're moving further into the drawing. We're starting to get up here by the face where everything's going to have to really be more accurate. So I'm just going to be sculpting all of this with these long dark strokes. Sculpting this shadow out of the corners here. And I really detest the way this thing looks right now. And this is like early in my career as an artist. I would have been like really wanted to stop right now because it just does not look good, even though I've spent over an hour on it. But that's the thing, is it's not going to look good until right up to the very end. Everything needs a little bit more, a little bit more. You'll know when that point comes. If you just keep throwing lead down and your shapes are good because we use the tracing method, you still have to learn which parts to trace, right? There's still, it's not everybody could just go out and do that first time and know what they're really doing. You probably could though, so you should try it. This little tie-dye phantom dot back there, and then the rest of this, we're going to start just darkening up this vest and really getting it where it needs to be in the grand scheme of things here. All this down here is good and dark. This whole area here, way darker. Throw that lead down. There it is. Now we're coming together. Starting to get there. We're in the vicinity of dandyhood, as George Carlin would say. We can hear our neighbors next door. They're really nice people. They're over there talking and having their break room meeting. Really nice group that works here in this building. They have just been wonderful to us as artists and musicians and very tolerant of our behavioral anomalies. Gussy up this button real quick. You can see it's shaded more on one side than the other, so we'll give it that graduation of color, or graduation of shadow. Alright, now looks like we're really getting close to being ready to switch focus and work on the face a little bit, but let's get this shirt looking good. Just firming up these lines that we've already established on this really cool psychedelic vest. I know more about it now than I could have imagined. Throwing down lead. How's this camera doing?
Oh shoot. Still recording?
It wasn't, but I just hit it now.
Okay, there we go.
Maybe set like a 30-minute alarm or something.
Yeah, I'll set a timer on my phone. Or what time?
All right, we're back. Did a significant amount of shading. We've got redundant qualities here, right? So even though we missed it on this one, some of it we got it on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, no problem. Redundancies in the engineering system, that's a good thing.
Factor safety.
Alright, so what were we doing? We were coloring in, we were shading Buzz's shirt here. Yeah, so let me switch to a 2B and 6B. That's the only pencils I'm using here. It's a very simple setup. 2B for the slightly lighter stuff and 6B for the really dark stuff. I'm retracing this because we hit this one with the big fat pencil. Now I'm just retracing this line and we'll go up to it with the point. Alright. Now I'm going to squint a little bit while I make these broad strokes, so I'm kind of just, I'm letting my artist hand sort of do its work here. I'm just shading where it looks like it's necessary. It's a powerful technique. You can't do the whole drawing like this, but this is a good way to squint and color. The neck is starting to come together. And I'll bring some of those highlights back out as we go. Sculpting this right now. Right about now, we're getting that kind of the runner's high, you know. Like I can see how this is gonna look. I know it's getting close. It's starting to feel more and more awesome. starting to lose a little bit of that contrast that I'm wanting. So let's go back to this 6B and darken up this stripe right here. Reinforce a couple of these lines with a really dark pencil. Okay. Back to the 2B. Alright, let's finish up this section. We're almost done here. Definitely want this pendant to really pop and stand out because you can see it really good in the photo. So I want to make sure that we can see it really good in the drawing. Here's a point where we can use this guy, although we want to sharpen this. I don't really have a piece of sandpaper handy like I usually do. I used up the last bit of what I had. So just sharpen it right here on the table. Best to just stay out of those areas to really get the most highlight. Up in that chain. Just gonna add a few dots as I go down in here. A little bit across. Again, we're going for realism, not photorealism. Not quite representationalism, not quite abstraction. Definitely want you to be able to recognize who you're looking at here. Alright, now time to get busy with the face a little bit here. We'll come back to the hair here and we'll work on that a little bit after. All right, now we know his face does not look good right here the way we have it. Looks good in the photograph, does not look good on the page. So we're just gonna start making it look better. And we know that this half of the face is in shade, and the darkest parts of this half of the face are the eyeball here in the corner of the mouth and this part of the nose. So we already got the chin line, jawline pretty dark here where it moves through. So let's darken up this eye. Now I actually don't mind that there's hardly any detail in this eye because this eye's all in shadow. And I don't want to add detail that's not really there too much. Once in a while we'll do something like that. In this photo, to me, it's almost entirely black. The whole part of the eyeball there. And this goes along with, drawing what's there and not what you think is there. Now, I did add a little pupil there, but it's going to be so dark, really not even going to be able to tell that there's much there. Now this whole part of the eye is in shade all the way down to this ghost mark that I made with the graphite. So we'll just shade that. Using our artist's eye, we'll squint, get that shading there. It's darker than that. Up above here. Shade this right coming off of here, just like that part. We'll make this sort of triangle negative shape with the cheek. We're shading right up to it. And now we're moving down. And this isn't really looking all that great yet. But we just have faith in the process. Just have faith in the process. And right down the nose. Follow the bridge of the nose. Darken area coming off of the nostril. Nostril gets a really dark black 6B. Because that's a heavy shadow right there. Now, I did not go to art school. I just read a book and started drawing. Some art school guys like, yeah, I can tell. Right? Alright, now the eye here is actually pretty dark there, so we're gonna go ahead and put that dark line right here. We're gonna get going on the darkness there. Color in that lid there. All dark, very dark. Now we got some tricks to smooth out all of this stuff that needs more work. You can kind of see the value change in the lip right there. That's a very clean line we're going to try to replicate. I don't really want it that dark though, but it's pretty dark. And the corner of the mouth here has a shadow that comes over the edge, you can kind of see there. And all this under the nose, the whole mustache area. Buzz has a nice manly mustache. Now we want to get that shadow correct there. Nice dark shadow. Helps define the relationship of the cheek to the nose. And we blew out some of the shadows with the contrast, but that's okay, because it makes Buzz look cool. It's kind of fun and artsy to do. Makes it easier to draw, and a host of other reasons. I'm going to squint and use my artist eye, and I'm just going to keep laying down lead because this lip needs to be colored in here. There's not a whole lot of actual white paper colored area on this canvas when we're done, because just give him some realistic lip lines. Again, realism, not photorealism. Now you can see this drawing is really starting to come together. I'm almost starting to get happy with the way it's looking. Now there's still some work to be done here. All of this stuff can be smoother, and we're going to fix smoothness with a really cool technique I'll show you in just a minute. There's no need for that to be there. Alright, now we're starting to get really pretty close here to being able to just do some finishing touches. Now the more work you do on it, the better it's going to look. All the way up to a point, and then it can be considered overworked, which we also don't want. And so I'm a big fan of putting what needs to be there, and what doesn't need to be there, just leaving it off of there. Profound, right?
Yeah, I like to just get rid of all the parts I don't like. And then, eventually.
Yeah. Now, I'm not married to this technique necessarily, but this is just the one I've done. This has given me the results that I've wanted over the years. And just my personal... Alright, so we're filling in some hair stuff. And now, now I don't even really have to look that much at the reference photo. By now I can see which parts just don't look right because all my shading is is borderline done. Get a nice dark hair there. This is just a collection of forms and values on a piece of paper here. Just a representation of my friend Buzz, my musical buddy. And now that I've had the discipline to sit and actually render this entire thing, I feel very good about it. Now, just going to continue to tweak it. Sculpt that eye back a little bit and get back into it here. That looks a little more. Make sure it's well known he's got a nice beard, so when I get those hairs in there, he takes pride in his beard and it looks good. So we want to show him with that beard, that mustache. His this thing here. What's that thing called?
What's that?
What is that called?
A mustache?
No, the front of your lip, like the little divot under your nose.
Oh, that's got a name?
Yeah, it's like a filium or a filigram or something like that.
News to me.
Yeah. Hey, if anybody out there knows what that's called,
yeah, leave in the comments.
I have about 5 anatomy books at home, but none of them in the studio.
I just got 5 minutes left on it. Should I reset it?
Sure you can, yep. Yeah, that's a constant thing. Actually, this drawing table didn't have a ledge on it.
Oh, yeah?
When I first started, yeah, and it would just, so I would hang my little bag up here on this screw to keep things from, but I put this on there to help it. Okay, so while this is not completely done, I am getting close, and I'm going to start showing you guys my final touch methods just to make it even better and better and better. You know, and we can continue to work this. If there's a real need for accuracy, you know, we can really get in the weeds on this, and we could make a grid and go grid by grid. Even with a graphite transfer paper, we could use a grid. And there's a little detail in there that's not really in here, but hey, we're using representational art form. So where can we improve? Can we make sure his beard is there? Hair is there. Giving it a good squint. All right, now I want to just address the hair. Okay, so we're going to add a little extra detail in the hair that's already there. So we're really dark here, but you can see over on this part of the hair there's highlights, right? So now I'm going to take my Magic Electric Eraser here, and I really like this brand. I don't know what it's called. Sakura. I think I got it at the local art store about 15 or 20 years ago. Trying to think of when I think I started in 2009. Yeah, so it would have been sooner than that. But I got this right when I first started drawing. Now I'm going to just go, I'm going to follow the contour of the hair, and I'm going to start drawing in some detail into the black with the white. So we're using a reductive part. That's why this is kind of like sculpting. Right? We're using a reductive method. And we can use this to delineate hair flow. And we won't let it be quite this wide. We will go back over these with a pencil to make them more narrow. Now, hair is one of the coolest parts about drawings. And so if you don't have a good method for it, you can maybe draw it in that photorealistic way where you're really getting down into the weeds and going hair by hair, little centimeter by centimeter. But I like to do this more natural. Feels more natural for me to just kind of draw it as if it were a hair, right? and kind of follow the hairlines. Now I go back with my 6B, a nice sharp one, and I sort of, all these blunt tips, I want to kind of sharpen them up. And all the stuff that's too wide to be a hair, I want to just narrow it up to where it kind of looks like a hair. And then I want a couple of black lines that cross it to give the illusion that there's like a dark part of the hair that's crossing over the light part of the hair. And we're just going to continue to sculpt on it. We're just going to keep going. We're going to bring some of this up. Get that big blob of highlight right there in there. And get this highlight on the end in there somehow. Layers and layers and layers. It's not how I thought drawings would be done. I thought you would just use one pencil, and just draw it with one swoop. All right, now getting even closer, right? Getting even closer. What can we do to make it even better? So these brush strokes here, these pencil marks, can be sort of blended using a little piece of paper towel or a cotton ball. Cotton ball is really the best, but we just use a paper towel because that's what we got, and we're just going to hit it up with a dry paper towel. I'm going to just very gently just hit this up with a dry paper towel. We're going to follow the direction of the shadow. We're going to kind of blend these lines. Get a fresh part of the tissue here. And you can start to see it really just erase some of that heavy contrast that we already put in there, but in a good way, right? And then we can still go back and darken these up and fix them if they need changing. But here's your realistic transition. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Now we got to add more lead because we just took some off. And we got to go back in and darken this part back up again. Make it look right. because I'm just gonna keep on going. And there was a point in there where I was like, oh, I'm probably done, but you know, we'll just give it a little more highlight on the lip. Okay. Pretty close. Maybe a couple more things. Just adding texture now with this electric eraser. Just using a sort of a stippling method to add some texture, and I'm actually gonna color that back in a little bit. Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to sign it at the bottom. Well, I'll put it maybe up here on his shirt. So you can read it a little bit. And I'm going to date it 2024.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it.
I really did, man.